All right, so basically when we're gonna be asked to find two quantities, we are probably asked to solve a system of equations. So every time you have a problem, a word problem that deals with two quantities, you're gonna have to write down the system of equations, and then you're gonna have to solve it to answer the questions. So step one will be read the question and denote the things that you are asked to solve for. Let them be X or Y or stuff like that. So let's read it. Steve made a profit of $25,000 from the sale of his condo. He then invested part of that money in a bond fund at 4% interest, and the rest in a mutual fund which returns 6%. After a year, he had earned $1,260. How much did he invest in each account? So these are the two things that we are asked for. How much did he invest at 4% and how much he invested at 6%. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna let X equal the dollars invested at 4%, and then let Y be the dollars invested at 6%. And now we just got to write the system of equations in X and Y. So he said that the interest is $1,260 and that he actually invested the profit, right? The profit is 25,000. So basically the amount he has to invest is 25,000. Do you agree? Because he's using this money to invest at 4% and at 6%, and then he made an interest of this. So in terms of an equation, we say that the amount invested at 4% plus the amount invested at 6% must equal 25,000, because that's how much money he has to invest. Now the interest has to add up to 1,260. So if he invests X% at 4%, X dollars at 4%, we have to have that 0.4 times X plus 0.6 times Y must equal 1,260. Because 4% of X means 0.4X. 0.04, excuse me, 0.04 and then 0.06. So there you go, we have our system. So if we solve the system, we can answer the question how much he invested at 4% and how much he invested at 6%, aka how much he invested in each account. So we're going to solve it by substitution. So from the first one, we're going to say that X equals 25,000 minus Y. And then we're going to substitute that X into the second one. Okay? So instead of X right here, I'm going to put this. So it'll be 25,000 minus Y plus 0.06 Y equals 1,260. And notice that this one is just an equation in Y, so we know how to solve this. So we're just gonna solve this 0.04 times 2,500. One way to deal with this is write 0.04 as 4 over 100. So this is a trick. And then write 0.06 as 6 over 100. And now multiply both sides by 100. And you see that that's going to help us. So 100 times 4 over 100, the 100 goes away, so I'll have just 4 times 2500, which is 100,000, minus 4y plus 6y equals 1260, and then add 2 more zeros. So then the negative 4y plus 6y is 2y, and then 126,000 minus 100,000 will give you 26,000, and we easily get that y equals 13,000. Alright, so we have y is 13,000, and then go back to your substitution to get that x equals, well, 25,000 minus 13,000. X equals 12,000. So basically we answered the question. He invested 12,000 at 4% and 13,000 at 6%. Alright, let's see next one. We have then an airplane flying into a headwind makes 1,800 miles trip between Phoenix and Pittsburgh. And then it takes him 3 hours and 36 minutes. Then the return trip takes 3 hours. Find the speed of the airplane and the speed of the wind. So this is speed of the plane. This is our x. And then find the speed of the wind. This is our y. Okay? So we need to find x and y such that this takes place. Alright, so we're gonna draw a little diagram to help us come up with the system. So from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, there are 1,800 miles, okay? So the distance is 1,800 miles. And then it takes him 3 hours and 36 minutes to go from Phoenix to Pittsburgh headwind. That means that if the plane goes this way, the wind is going the other way, okay? So basically the speed, the resulting speed is going to be the speed of the plane minus the speed of the wind. The wind is not helping, okay? So going from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, you'll have that the speed, the resulting speed is x minus y, because we said that the speed of the wind is y. So we basically need to remember the formula that distance equals speed or rate times time. Okay? So let's try to write the system now. So the first equation is going to be from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, okay? So we're gonna write that the distance equals the speed times time. And then the second equation is gonna be from Pittsburgh to Phoenix. And again, the distance is going to be the rate times time. So, what's the distance from Phoenix to Pittsburgh? Oh, how does it do this? It's going to be still 1,800 miles. But what is the rate? Going from Phoenix to Pittsburgh is the speed of the plane minus the wind. So it'll be x minus y times the time, and it says it's 3 hours and 36 minutes. So time is 3 hours 36 minutes. And then for the second equation, the distance from Pittsburgh to Phoenix is still 1,800, but the rate now, so the airplane goes this way as well. So the resulting speed is going to be x plus y. The wind is helping now. So this is going to be x plus y. Hence it takes less to travel this way, which is 3 hours. There you go. We have our system now. We just need a little more tweaking before we... So 1,800 equals x minus y. 3 hours and 36 minutes, we have to convert this in hours. So this is 3 hours and 36 minutes is 36 over 60. 36 minutes out of 60 minutes, and this gives you 0.6. So 36 over 60 is 0.6. So 3 hours and 36 minutes means 3.6 hours. So that's what we're going to have in here, times 3.6. And then for the second equation, x plus y times 3. So solve this system now. By, let's just do substitution again. Okay, so let's rewrite it. 1800 equals 3.6x minus 3.6y, and then 1800 equals 3x plus 3y. Let's solve for x in here, so I'll have 3x equals equals 1800 minus 3y, divide by 3, we get 600 minus y. So this will be our substitution. So in the second one, instead of x, now we're going to put 600 minus y. In the first one, 1800 equals 3.6. Instead of x, I'm going to put 600 minus y minus 3.6y. And again, we can do the trick where we'll write 3.6 as 36 over 10. I don't like working with decimals. And 3.6 is 36 over 10. And then I'm going to multiply by both sides. By 10, both sides. Alright, so then I'll have 18000 equals 36 times 600 minus y minus 36y, because this 10 goes away with this one as well. So then finally we get 18,000 equals 36 times 600. 36 times 600. Yeah, it works if you turn it on. 36 times 600. One more. 21,600 minus 36y minus 36y. Subtract 21,600. So 18000 minus 21,600 equals negative 3,600. So negative 3,600 equals negative 72y. Divide by negative 72. We get that y equals 50. So y equals 50. And therefore from that one, we get that x equals 600 minus 50. So x equals 550. All right, so what did we get? That the speed of the airplane is 550 miles per hour, and then that the wind is 50 miles per hour. This is a real thing. When I flew to Portland, it took longer on the way there than on the way back. So yeah. All right, another application. A chemist has one solution containing a 10% concentration of acid, so 10% concentration, and a second solution containing 15% concentration of acid. How many milliliters of each? So this should be my X. Let X equal milliliters of 10% solution, and let Y be milliliters of 15% solution. Because this is what we're asked, how many milliliters of each should be mixed in order to obtain 10 milliliters of a solution containing 12%. So we're mixing X milliliters of 10% with Y milliliters of 15% to obtain how much? 10 milliliters of 20%. So what is my first equation? How many milliliters do I have to get out? I'm putting X and Y, and they have to equal to 10. So my first is X plus Y equals 10. Now, if I have X milliliters of 10% solution, how much of it is going to be acid, pure acid? So think about it. So let's say that I have 100 milliliters of the 10% solution. How much of that 100 is actually acid? Well, 10% of it. So 10 milliliters is going to be acid. 10 milliliters out of the 100 is going to be acid. But I don't know that I have 100. I know that I have X milliliters. So how much acid will be in X milliliters of 10%? Well, it's going to be 0.10 times X. And then together with 0.15 times Y has to equal to, we know that the resulting mixture is 12%, so it'll be 0.12 times 10, because I know that I have to have 10 out, right? It says obtain 10 milliliters. So this is the milliliters of acid in the 10% solution, and this is the milliliters of acid in the 15% solution. So you see how we just have to solve this system now? So to solve the system, let's do it by substitution. So I'll substitute for X. So X is I'm subtracting Y from both sides, so 10 minus Y. And then in the second one, I'm going to rewrite 0.10 as 10 over 100 times X, but X is 10 minus Y, plus 0.15, I'm going to write it as 15 over 100 times Y, equals 0.12, I'm going to write it as 12 over 100 times 10. I now notice if I multiply both sides by 100, I will get the following. 10 times 10 minus Y plus 15Y equals 120. Because this went with this and with that, and then this one went with that one. So therefore, I'll have 100 minus 10Y plus 15Y equals 120, which gives me that 5Y equals 20, and that gives me that Y equals 4. So remember, y was the milliliters. So 4 milliliters of 15% solution. And now I go back in here to my substitution. So x now is going to be 10 minus y, but we just found that y was 4, so it's 10 minus 4. So this will give me 6 milliliters of 10% solution. So there you go. To get 10 milliliters of 12% solution, we got to mix 6 milliliters of 10% with 4 milliliters of 15%. All right, let's do one more application. Again, keep in mind that the goal is to write down the system of equations and then solve it. So your first goal is your first task is read the problem and let x be whatever and let y be whatever. So we have that a farmer has 1,500 available fence, well, wire, whatever, to build a fence along a straight river to create 2 identical rectangular pastures. All right, so let's make a river. And then he wants to build 2 identical rectangular pastures. Let's say he has cows and pigs and he wants to separate them. Oh, wait a minute, not pigs. I don't know, whatever. So it has to be something like this. And 2 identical, that means that this could be the chickens and this could be the cows. Okay? And he has $1,500 available dollars to build this fence. The material for the sides parallel to the river, so this is the side parallel, this one and that one is the side parallel to the river, cost $6 per foot. So this is $6 per foot. And then the materials for the 3 sides perpendicular to the river. So this is perpendicular to the river, this is perpendicular to the river, this is perpendicular to the river, cost $5 per foot. Find the dimension of the pasture if no fence is needed along the river, obviously. And the total area of the pasture is 6,250 feet squared. So what should be our x? Let x be what? And let y be what? So I say let y be this. And then let x be this. So if this is x, then this is also going to be x, and this is also going to be x. So now, what would be our system? So think about the information we're given. We're given that he has to spend $1,500 and that the area needs to be 6,250. Okay? So this is going to be our system. Our system is area equals 6,250 feet squared, and that the cost must be 1,500. Okay? So now let's write the area. The area is x times y, right? X times y, length times width, and it's equals 6,250. And then the cost well, he needs x feet here, and how much does it cost for these sides? It costs $5. So if this is 2 feet, it's going to cost him 5 times 2. and another 5 times 2 and another 5 times 2, but I don't know that this is 2 feet. I know that it's x, so it's going to cost him 5x for this area, 5x for this, 5x for that. So basically the cost is going to be 5x plus 5x plus 5x for these sides perpendicular to the river, plus how much does it cost him for this side parallel to the river? It says 6, right? So it'll be plus 6y must be equal to 1500. There you go, we have our system. So xy equals 6250, and then I have 15x plus 6y equals 1500. So let's solve it by substitution. So from the first one, I can solve for x and get that x equals 6250 divided by y. All right, just divide by y both sides. And then I'm going to substitute that in the second one. So instead of 15x, I'm going to have 15 times 6250 over y. So this is my x right here. Plus 6y equals 1500. So let's solve this. So 15 times 6250, 15 times 6250 equals 93750. 93750 over y plus 6y equals 1500. I can multiply by y both sides because y is not 0. Because, I mean, if y is 0, then the length of this pasture thing would be 0, right? So it doesn't make any sense. Y is not 0. So therefore, this will go away with that. And we will have 93750 plus 6y squared equals 1500y. So I can say minus 1500y equals 0. And then I just got to solve this quadratic. 6y squared minus 1500y plus 93750 equals 0. Solving for this, let's divide by 6. So I will get y squared minus 250y plus 93750 15625. And then we can factor this, y minus y plus 250. What is 125 times 125? All right, great. So then this is a perfect square, y minus 125 squared. So y equals 125 feet. And then going back to our substitution, this is the substitution. X equals 6250 over 125 gives us that x equals 50. Let's see, 6250 divided by 125, 50 feet. Okay, so we solved. So Then why does that x equals 50 feet? So now if you go back in here, you know that this is your y and it has to be 125 feet, and each of these should be 50 feet. 50, 50, 50.